Requesting connection. Established. Encrypted. We're live. The show you've been asking for. Advice, technology, and community. Linux first, all others second. This is Ask Noah.
Live from Altispeed Technologies, the show that puts you, the listener, in the driver's seat because you are the content. The phone lines are open to be a part of the program. It's a free call, 1-855-450-NOAH. It's 1-855-450-6624. Hey, give me a call, and we'll have a conversation about your tech questions or business and tech questions. Linux advocate, above all else, small business owner, now host of the only radio show centered around you, the listener. Welcome to the Ask Noah Show. My name is Noah July. So good evening, everyone. Delighted to be here. Episode 29, the Ask Noah Show kicking off this hour. Last week, we bumped up against the top of the hour, and I can't take any across points time, but we aired an entire interview. We had an entire interview that we recorded when we were at the Ubuntu rally last week. And if you haven't listened to it, I would encourage you to go back and listen to the whole thing. This week, I want to dive a little deeper into that interview. I think there are some really cool nuggets that, maybe you didn't catch if you didn't have some of the background surrounding the interview that I have. So, go ahead and queue up cut 4 from... Okay. Well, when you get to it, queue up cut 4 for me. And basically, for those of you who don't know the history, let's just take a minute and explain where we were, where we are now, and where we're going. And actually, I'll get to that in 1 second. That will give the guys in the room a little bit more time to get all of this set up. We'll go ahead and go to the phones then first. Dax is calling from the road. I think this is the first call we've ever had from the road. Hi, Dax. Welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hey, Noah. How are you doing?
Excellent. So you got to give me some background. Where are you on the road to and from?
Well, I'm from southern Idaho, and I'm driving to San Jose, which is where the company I work for is based out of.
Okay, fantastic. And you're streaming us on the web then?
Actually, no. I'm in my car, and I just called you on the phone because I've been listening. I had the podcast. I got your phone number from there. But I do have a wireless setup in my truck. It's just that I'm literally sitting on the side of the road in the middle of a forest right now. I barely have cell access, let alone data access.
Wow. Well, you sound great. How can we help today?
Well, I have 2 questions for you if you have time for it.
I do.
My first question is on my corporate laptop, I've went ahead and gone rogue, and I've been a Linux Mint Cinnamon desktop guy for quite a while now. Really I changed after Ubuntu went to, I think they called it Unity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't adapt.
Yeah.
I think GNOME 3 and all that stuff came out about that same time, and I'm an old fart, so I guess I couldn't make that change.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I run Linux Mint Cinnamon, and in order to get, Exchange and all the other crap that they want me to have, I run the corporate image as a virtual machine, but I've been using VMware Player for that. I guess part of what I'm trying to ask is, what is the preferred better solution than using the VMware Player, if there is one? And the reason I bring this up is that the little bit of research I've done, like KVM and these other ones, I don't remember the technical term. Again, I'm on the road, or else I would have looked it up for you. But there seems to be like a limitation. It doesn't do blah, and that's why people stick with the VMware Player. And if you suggest that I move, is it just mounting the hard drive to this new virtualization platform?
Yeah, so there's you want to move the existing VM architecture. If you were to go with another solution, you want to move the existing VM architecture over to another virtualization platform?
That's what I'm asking. If that's too hard, it's not the end of the world to re-virtualize because I've got everything on my Linux partition. I just mounted a shared drive as far as data is concerned, but it is kind of a pain in the to reinstall everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say, I guess I would start out by telling you this. No, there is not. I wouldn't draw a hard line and say, I just wouldn't use Oracle VMware. I wouldn't use this, that, or the other. If the virtualization platform is working for you, continue. As long as it, if it works on Linux, I use plenty of proprietary software on Linux, and I've not really had any issue. And the other thing is too, is it's not like Oracle is the Lord and Savior of the open source world, right? They do plenty of terrible things, and yet pretty much every time I sit down at a table and talk with a bunch of people that are developing on Linux, I say, "What do you use for virtualization?" So yeah, we use VirtualBox. I mean, if you have a reason to get off of VMware Player, I will tell you this. I was speaking with a couple of people that are heavily involved with VMware, and they have slashed their development team down to a skeleton, and they are basically just kind of in maintenance mode on a lot of their stuff because basically they're just not making any money. It's really hard to sell ESXi when you have things like Overt competing, doing a better job, and at a fraction of the cost. Enter zero that they charge for ESXi.
Fair enough.
So yeah, I mean, if you want to move though, yes, it's a trivial process to move. Basically, what you do is you can use the VDI format. You can use .VDI is virtual disk image. You can use that. The best one, the one that I would recommend, is QCOW2 because QCOW2 is compatible with pretty much every virtualization platform out there. And libvirt actually provides a utility to convert existing disk images to QCOW2.
libvirt, okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I assume that's just like a command line thing, and I can find the parameters to do that.
Yes, sir. Yes, you can.
Cool.
And we'll include them in the show notes for you too.
Yeah, I might. Yeah, fair enough. And I might experiment. I've used VirtualBox in the past, way early before they even had like a GUI for it, and maybe it's time for me to revisit it then. I'm not really necessarily unhappy with VMware, other than even with VMware tools installed, I still have to hit Control-Alt to release the mouse so I can go to the other part of my screen, which is just annoying, I guess, more than anything.
Yeah,
so
of course.
It's maybe a technicality more than anything. So thank you. My second question, and forgive me for my ignorance, like I said, I'm a long-term Linux user. I kind of stick with what's there, and I don't really explore very, very much because I'm busy doing my job. But you guys on Jupiter Broadcasting for, I don't know, the last couple weeks, maybe months, I don't know, have used this term snaps, and I have no idea what a snap is. Can you fill me in?
Yeah, I sure can. So when you first started using Linux, what was let me ask. Maybe I'll get lucky. What was the most annoying thing you first, the heart-wrenching thing that you first learned when you started using Linux? What was the first problem you had to overcome? What was the first thing you had to learn how to do?
I'm going to go way back. This is compiling my own kernel, but that's a long time ago. We're talking Slackware 3 days.
The reason I ask is I thought the answer that a lot of people give is, well, I didn't know how to install software because on Windows, I download the executable and I double-click on it and it installs. On Mac OS, I double-click on the DMG and I drag it into the applications folder and then that application is installed. On Linux, well, it kind of depends. Sometimes you download something and you run something, an installer file from the command line. Other times you can just install it right from the software source, but sometimes it's not actually in the software center. So you have to go out and get a PPA. What's a PPA? Well, that's a whole nother bag of worms. You have to go get this link and copy this thing in there, and then you'll be able to update it at least until the PPA breaks. Then you have to go update the PPA. Other times you have to add a completely separate repo, like in Fedora, where we have an entire. So it's like this cluster of various different ways that we install software on Linux, and it turns out it's very difficult because what you wind up with, Dax, is instead of saying we have Windows and we have Mac and we have Linux, really what you're saying is we have Windows and we have Mac and we have Ubuntu and we have Fedora and we have Arch, and each one of those separate, I'm going to call them operating systems, functions in entirely different ways. And that leads to all sorts of
System D and init-D and all the different ways things
got
up as well, right?
You got it. And so look at Arch, for example. Lightworks, I'd say once every 6 months I have a problem with Lightworks on my Arch laptop. Why? Because the Arch guys update the libraries every, 7 days, 14 days. And the Lightwork guys are targeting Ubuntu LTS, which updates those libraries every 5 years. And so it breaks. And usually I can fix it, but that's because I know what I'm doing. Other times you have things like TeamViewer that breaks. In fact, we had just a couple weeks ago, we had a caller that called in and said TeamViewer doesn't work on this particular version of Linux. Why? Well, we don't know. Probably it's some sort of library issue. And the argument, there are two arguments. One argument used to be space. Well, there's too much space, so we can't have duplicate copies of libraries all over the place, and so we need to we need to get rid of that. The other argument was security. Well, we have to have updated library files. Otherwise, your entire system becomes vulnerable because of that one application that uses those outdated library files that the application maintainer refuses to update. Right. So anyway, so you wind up with all of these
all in the same folder, right?
Exactly. So what basically Snaps is Snaps and App Image and I forget the other, the Flatpak. They are all trying to answer that question. And basically what a snap is an application, but a bundled application that has been put into a container of sorts. So I can take that snap and it contains everything I need to run that application. So as long as I have the snap store available to me so I can install that snap, I can run that snap on Fedora, I can run that snap on Ubuntu, I can run that snap on Arch, I can run that snap on Red Hat, CentOS, SUSE, all of them.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
so you can...
It's like a virtual environment for Python when I'm programming in Python.
Kind of, but it's not actually virtualizing anything. It has all of the it's running locally. It just has all of the resources it needs to run inside of that snap. And so you can start to see how when the Ubuntu team sat down at the Ubuntu rally with the Microsoft guys and said, "Hey guys, we need a snap of Skype." All Microsoft has to do is target that one thing. Just update that snap, make sure that snap runs, and all of a sudden, all of Linux has an up-to-date working version of Skype. That's huge. And I'll take it one step further. Maybe down the road, as Microsoft continues to admit that they suck and that they need to move closer and closer to Linux, and so they've incorporated Bash and all this other stuff. Eventually, I think we're already seeing containerization of Linux apps on top of Windows. Just wait until snaps come there, and then all of a sudden, all an application developer has to do is target snaps, and it runs on Windows and Linux and maybe Mac OS someday. You can see how that would go real long way, right?
Sure. Kind of what the doctor did, and if you go back 20 years, you put everything in the same folder.
Exactly.
The way we used to do it.
Exactly. Does that make sense to you? Does that answer your questions?
Kind of. Yeah, I think it does. So does that mean I have to install a program, like you do with Docker, to make snaps run?
Right.
Or is it going to be built into the OS?
It may. I don't. Oh, hold on a second. Let me see how I do this. Here we go. Simon, you with me? Simon? Hey.
You still have me. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I'm hoping I have both of you. Simon, do I have you too?
I believe so.
Okay, cool. Hey, question for you. Is everything you need to run snaps, is that included by default in 1610?
Well, 1610 is end of life, but 1604, all of that should be, installed by default.
Sorry. 1704. 1704. Is it included by default in 1704?
Yep, it's included by default right now in all the supported releases of Ubuntu. They all pull it in by default. I think that change was done a couple months ago. But the snap daemon, that handles all the snaps, and I don't believe Snapcraft is installed by default. But regardless, everything should be there.
So everything it needs to run it, though, is included by default?
Yes. Yep.
There you go. Does that answer your question, Dex?
And that, I think it does, and that is relevant then if I run Cinnamon versus Mate versus God only knows what else.
Yeah, but I can tell you if Martin Wimpress does such a fantastic job keeping the Ubuntu Mate project in line with Ubuntu proper that you're not, even without even asking him, I can tell you you're not going to have a problem. If it works on Ubuntu proper, it works on Ubuntu Mate 100% of the time in my experience.
Fair enough.
Cool.
Okay, cool. Yep, that's it.
Awesome. Thanks for the call. Wendy is calling from Idaho. Hi, Wendy. Welcome to the Ask Noah Show. Oops, I didn't click the thing. Hold on. Hi, Wendy. Welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hello.
How can we help?
So I've got just a quick question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I am a freelancer, and I've been using Linux now for almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really trying to find a program where I can keep track of my clients, I can keep track of projects, and help me build proposals and have it native to Linux and not be running on a browser.
Gotcha. Well, there are two projects, Wendy, that you can use. The first is for keeping track of projects, keeping track of time, keeping track of where you are in the project, who's involved in the project, your contractors, what time, what supplies, all of that stuff. What you're looking for is a customer resource management or a CRM software. And the best one that I know of is a software project called Zurmo, Zurmo. And basically what Zurmo does is it allows you to enter in all of your clients, all of your customers, and then track everything they've asked you to do, track them as individual projects, track where you are, track who you've handed it off to. And so you kind of have one canonical place to go and look for all of that information. Then as far as generating invoices, I use a program or a software platform called Invoice Ninja. Now, Invoice Ninja they offer it in two ways. The first is you can download it and just run it yourself, host it yourself. The second way, though, is they offer a premium service. So it's like $19 a month. And what you get for that $19 a month is they will host it, so it's web-based, and they will remove all of the Invoice Ninja branding. So it only has your company name. It's kind of like a white label solution kind of a thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then all you got to do is pay your $19 a month, and they will continue to do it. Now, as far as Zurmo goes, I will tell you, I try to stay a little unbiased, but just so you know, Altispeed Technologies does offer hosting for Zurmo as well. So if you're saying, you know what, I don't want to actually manage the software, I just want to pay a monthly fee, and then I just want to have access to the software. I don't know if Zurmo offers that themselves, but we offer that just like we offer hosted C-file stuff like that. So both of those are the two software platforms I would use, and both of them are available either directly on your machine, you could host it yourself, or through a third party in the case of Zurmo, and directly from Invoice Ninja. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Perfect. Thanks for the call. Eric is calling from Indiana. Hi, Eric. Welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hi, Noah. Great to talk to you.
Yeah, same, sir. How can we help?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you to yourself and Chris for the really great coverage of the Ubuntu rally. I think that was really one of your best content I've seen on Jupiter Broadcasting, so thanks so much for that.
Outstanding.
Yeah, so my question was related to that. I mean, as Chris alluded to, I think in either User Error or another show, the audio quality was really excellent, and I was just kind of curious I know you guys use a lot of high-end like microphones and stuff, but what equipment did you use? Oh, sorry for that. What equipment did you use for recording the audio interview you did personally? Was it like audio only, or what kind of equipment did you use?
Yeah, no worries. So actually all of the, except for the Mark Shuttleworth interview, and I am fairly certain, I guess I can't say that with complete certainty because he was there one extra day that I wasn't there, but the equipment that Chris used was actually my equipment. I brought the microphone and the recorder, and then Chris just used it to bang out his interview, and I actually sent it to him over Telegram, which is kind of funny because he loves getting production assets over Telegram. But to answer your question, the specific equipment, the microphone that kind of does it all is let me see if I can look up the exact model number for you. It's made by Electro Voice, and basically it is the standard in the interview world. Electro Voice interview mic. Yeah, the RE50. It is the Electro Voice RE50. And the thing that is nice about the Electro Voice RE50 is it's about a $200 microphone, handheld microphone. And you can basically, I bought it when I first got hired with Jupiter Broadcasting, and I've used it for everything. And the thing that's great about it is the off-axis rejection, that is the noise that's coming from around the microphone rather than whoever speaking directly into it, is phenomenal. If you go back 2 episodes ago and listen to the interview I did with Ron, we were actually sitting at a diner. And now that I've told you that, if you go back and listen to that interview, you can actually hear like plates clanking around and stuff like that, but it's not real obvious in the interview, and that's because the off-axis rejection is so great. The other thing that's fantastic about that microphone is it has a dual shock-mounted capsule on the inside. So basically, picture this. You have a microphone, and the microphone then sits inside of little rubber bands, and then the rubber bands are attached to a separate microphone encasement that then you hold onto. So that way, when I grab onto it with my hand vibration, or the vibration of my hand rubbing up and down the microphone, doesn't actually transfer into the sound. So that's probably the key. You could record it on anything. You could record it on your laptop. You could record it on a $50 recorder off of Amazon. It doesn't matter. In fact, I used to use it all the time with my Panasonic HMC 150 pro grade camera. Nowadays, though, Chris and I each have this recorder that we really like, and it's the Zoom H5. And what's great about the Zoom H5, it has dual XLR inputs, so that's what you would need for this Electro Voice RE50. And the top of it has these little capsules that you can buy, different microphone capsules. Now, I have not been super impressed with the capsules. They're all condenser mics. And the thing about condenser mics are they're great if you're recording in a completely soundproof room. But that's never the case when we're out at these events. I've never had an ideal recording scenario. So I don't want a condenser microphone because it picks up too much ambient noise. What you want is a good off-axis rejection dynamic mic. So I took the capsule when I bought mine. I took it out of the box. I took the capsule. I threw it in a corner. I haven't looked at it since. But the other thing that is so great about that recorder, and I didn't know this, Chris actually told me when we were out there, you can plug a USB cable into this recorder and it will become an audio interface that works natively inside of Linux. So it's a really great little machine, and it has a built-in compressor limiter in it, which I don't use. I just set the volume appropriately, and then I process that in post in Audacity. But yeah, but that's really, and again, that's a particularly nice recorder, and I bought it because Chris had the same model, and so it's just kind of nice when you're working with other people if you all have the same equipment because the buttons are all in the same place. And so when I handed it to him when he went and did the interview with the elementary guy, he didn't even have to look at it. He just, his hands knew right where the power button was. It knew right where the play button and record button is. He knew all of that layout because he has the same one. But you could do any XLR recorder would give you that records in PCM. You always want to record in WAV or at least 320 MP3. Anything that records in that format you're going to come out with the same quality recording. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's really great. So you said it was a Zoom HD5?
H5.
Get that model right.
Yeah, just H5. H5.
Just
Hotel
H5.
5. Mm-hmm. Zoom H5.
Okay, great. And the reason I'm asking is because I'm going to go to a conference in late January, and I do a podcast as well, so I want to get some interviews for the show. And last year what I did is I took my ThinkPad Carbon with me. I hooked up my USB kind of mixer with the two Electro Voice RB320s, and it was just a bear to set up. So I'm kind of hoping I have something I can turn on, and within like 3 seconds I can put somebody with a mic and just say, hey, let's talk, instead of just setting up the laptop for 10 minutes or something. So.
Yeah, you can do that. The other thing you could do if you want to save a little bit of money, you can buy something called an iRig. It's basically a small little XLR interface that plugs into your telephone, your smartphone, and then there is an app, and the app is called the Rev Voice Recorder. REV as in Victor, REV Voice Recorder, and basically it is a professional It's a professional application that was put out by. I'm trying to think. I can't remember where it was I was seeing, but basically it was an application that was developed specifically for journalists to do field reporting. It works right on your phone. So if you want to save a little bit of money, that's something that you could do. Dale is calling from Virginia. Hi, Dale. Welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hi, Noah. Is the audio quality okay?
It is. Pleasure to speak with you. How can we help?
Okay. So every once in a while in Linux, I'll learn something that makes me geek out. Like, for example, the double exclamation point can repeat your last command, and you can even type sudo in front of that. When I learned that, I got so excited. I sent like 5 people in my shop, hey, did you guys know this? Dude, we don't care. We're Windows admins. But whatever. They know. So anyway, what's the last thing that you've learned that made you really geek out?
Oh, man. On Linux specifically or just in general?
You know what? Let's go in general.
Okay. I'll tell you, here's one thing I've been playing with personally, and it only applies if you're doing podcasting or in my case broadcasting. One of the things that I have to contend with is when we do this show, it's held to a different standard than some of the other podcasts, and because we actually have an FCC minimum mandated noise floor that we have to adhere to. And so when I go on the air, no matter what the reason is, I have to make sure that the quality is at a certain level. And the minimum accepted quality, generally accepted for broadcast, is something called G.722. And one of the apps that I have been playing with is an app called Lucy Live, LUCILIVE, and it runs on Linux, Mac, Windows, and Android. And what you can do is you can install this app, and I can connect we have a very expensive piece of equipment in here that allows me to connect remotely. And this software platform lets me use the G722 or Opus or ACLD, which is a low latency AAC codec. And basically, I can connect into the studio and do a show from my phone if I had to, which actually would have kept the show on the air a couple of months ago when we had to make a run to the airport. So I stayed up for like 3 nights playing with it, and I was like, oh, this is just the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it's really amazing how something can go from you've never seen it before to you need this in your Swiss Army knife of tools all the time.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, it became as a must, and it's not cheap. I think it's $250 for the app, but it was worth every penny to me because to be able to get that kind of low latency, high quality audio, and there's a couple of limitations. So you have to have something that can accept the call on the other end. You can't call a Skype machine or something like that. But so there's a couple of restrictions to it, but it's a really good application, and I'm real happy with it. Audra is calling from North Dakota. Hey, Audra, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hi, thanks. Oh my gosh, this is so cute.
How can we help today?
Sorry. No, but I have a real question. Except, maybe you can, dumb it down because I have no idea what you just said for, the past 10 minutes.
Okay, I'll do my best.
So my question is, do you have, a router that you recommend that I can get for, under $50 that will work in, a small apartment with, 3 rooms?
Okay.
Is that a thing?
Yep, that is a thing. So basically, there are 3 things you look for in a router, Audra. The first thing you look for is what is the speed that the router can take. So if my internet represented a pipe, like a water slide, how big around is that water slide? And if that water slide is spitting out, let's say 20 gallons per minute, I don't want to buy a router think of a tube connecting to the slide. I don't want to buy a tube that connects to the slide that can only accept 10 gallons per minute. You follow me? Because then the water would stop up when it necks down. Right. So that's the first thing you want to look at is what kind of speed can the router itself take. And so in 2017, you'd want to see something that supports gigabit. That's 1,000 megabits per second, which is going to be drastically faster than most ISPs will offer. The second thing you look for is what is the range of the router? So what wireless bands are supported on the router? So for example, your phone has specific little radios in it, and those radios allow it to talk back and forth to the router. And so you want to make sure that those radios have letter identification. So the first one we had was B. The second one we had was G. The third one we had was N. The latest one, not the latest one, but the latest one that is in wide scale use is what we call AC. So you'd want to look for a router that has the AC standard. The router that we recommend to most home users, and we have used this all the way up to homes that are 2,700 square feet, 2,800 square feet, and had very good luck with it, is the TP-Link N450, and I'll have a link for you in the show notes, but basically it can be bought off of Amazon.com. It's $39, and it's just a plug-and-play device. So you pull it out of the box, you plug the yellow port on the back of the router into your cable modem, blue port on the back of the router into your cable modem, and you can connect wirelessly to it. If you have a desktop, you can plug the desktop into one of the yellow ports, and that will let you get online.
Oh my God, that's so great. Actually, that's funny that you said that too, because specifically in my planned question, I was going to ask for one that I could get from Amazon. So that was perfect.
Then you get overnight shipping.
Thanks, Noah.
Yep, no problem. Anything else, just give us a call back. Jason is calling from Maryland. Hey, Jason, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hey, Noah. So I'm a big fan of you and Chris from the Linux Action Show days, and I love this new show. I think it's a really great service, and I'm about to make use of it. So
awesome. Well, thanks for calling in. How can we help today?
All right. So I've been trying to move myself off of Google services for a while, and I've done a pretty good job of it. But the last service that was just great is Google Voice.
Yes.
And I'm trying to build something with free software. I can either host it myself at home or hopefully on a DO droplet. But I'm hoping that this is going to be possible with Asterisk or FreeSwitch.
Yes.
And I just wanted your advice on this.
It is. So that is what I do.
I want to do. Oh, awesome. Some things I want to do is have a phone number that I'm comfortable giving out publicly, and that phone number, hopefully, I want to set up a system where you can whitelist numbers that I know, like my family, numbers that I interact with regularly, but otherwise, it's going to bring you to a messaging system where either they'll have to put in a code that I gave them previously, someone I met, or it'll force them to voicemail, and then I can whitelist it afterwards. And for voicemail, I'd like it to be able to manage and store my voicemails, and I don't know if there's a web interface out there that can kind of give you the same kind of experience that Google Voice has. That's a lower priority. That'd be really nice to have, but I don't have a problem calling in to listen to my voicemails. So what do you think?
Everything you just said exists, and you're right. Free PBX Asterisk. I use the Asterisk now because it is an appliance-based CD. Appliance-based meaning you download the ISO and you put it onto a USB drive, plug it into a computer, and just wait. And that computer becomes a PBX appliance. Don't have any important data on it, obviously, but it should take no more than 5 minutes to set up. There is a how-to video that I did a while back. It should be on YouTube, and I'll dig that up and throw that in the show notes as well. As far as the management of voicemail, that also exists. It's a stock feature built into Asterisk. They call it the user control panel. It's turned on by default. When you create an extension, it will generate a password. I would recommend you change the password, but you can log into the web interface. You can play your voicemails. You can download them as waves. You can mark them as listened to. You can save them, store them in a folder. And that's how I manage all of my voicemails. As far as how to actually replace the Google Voice part of it so you can receive the calls, the free PBX part is free. Obviously, to pay for a phone number, it's going to cost a little bit of money. Not much, but a little bit. And the way you go about that is you look for a SIP trunking provider. Now, we use, we're big fans and always recommend a company called Voxtelsis. And we'll have a link in the show notes and you can reach out to them, voxtelsis.com. The great thing about Voxtelsis, Jason, is that they are very much the kind of people that think outside of the box. So I was just talking to the owner of the company yesterday or day before, and I had this idea, and I said, I have this idea for Ask Noah show, and I want to do this thing, and it would require this thing to connect to this thing and do these things. Can we do it? And he's like, let me think about it. And he gets back to me, yeah, we can do that. It would take this, and we'd need this software package and these pieces of hardware, but we can do it. And so we're actually going to do a show live from their headquarters upcoming. And the reason I like working with them so much is because I never get told no. I mean, if we have any sort of problem that you can come up with, those guys can solve. So I'd give them a call, voxtelsis.com, check them out, or give them a call, and that would be how I would get rid of Google services, the phone side of that anyway. All right, we'll get back to calls here in just a second, but I want to shift gears here. So queue up cut. We got cut 4. Okay, cool. So for those of you who don't know the history, let me just take a minute and explain where we were, where we are now, where we're going. So X has been the display server on Linux for a long time, since really its inception. And some of you are thinking, what exactly is X? X is the thing that gives you a graphical representation of what your desktop is. It's what you see your desktop. Without X, you would just have a command prompt. Now, the problem with X is that it is literally a hack job. X was written long before we had 1080p video, before we had streamed video, before we had intensive graphical video games, and we have just put one Band-Aid after another on X. And I guess I'm exaggerating that a little bit for dramatic effect, because anyone who actually develops code on X would tell you that large portions of X have been rewritten from the ground up specifically to solve some of these problems. And when I say that it's just one gigantic hack and there's a bunch of Band-Aids, it kind of downplays it does downplay the extensive work that the team on X has done and continues to do. But I'm saying it that way to make a point. Basically, if you've ever opened up your laptop and you've had it resume from standby and it starts playing the music, or I'll just say other content that you may have had playing, then you know what I'm talking about. Then you've had this happen. And you hit the mute key, nothing happens. Hit the volume key, nothing happens. So when I say X has some issues, that's what I'm referring to. Now, the solution to this problem, or proposed solution to this problem, came a few years ago when the Linux folks decided they were going to develop something called Wayland. And Wayland was going to be the replacement for X. Now, again, if you haven't heard the entire interview, I'm going to encourage you to go back to last week's episode, because Jerry talks about this in some detail, but it's not really relevant to the point I'm trying to make today. Suffice to say that they looked at contributing to Wayland and decided that it wasn't complete enough. And there are some of you that are sitting there, no, what do you mean it wasn't complete enough? What do you mean? Wayland is complete. That's shipping on Fedora. Yeah, but what I mean is that Wayland at the time was literally just a set of specifications. It wasn't a complete solution. And even today, there are projects like Kwin and Mutter that are toolkits to talk to Wayland, but Wayland is not an end-to-end solution. So we have Cut 4. Go ahead and play Cut 4.
And we found there were a couple of issues with Wayland that we were not terribly happy about. The fact that it's just a basic protocol, like it's a bunch of XML specs, that's frustrating because most application developers and most shell developers want an API to work with. If you actually wanted to bring something up, you had to write all the hard code yourself. You had to work with DRI, KMS. You had to figure out libinput didn't exist when we started either. So you had to talk to all these bits and pieces and figure it all out yourself, and that's an awful lot of work. The idea of Mir was we will deliver APIs to application toolkit developers and shell developers, and then we'll worry about everything in between.
So Canonical, from the ground up, designed a complete replacement, a strong competitor, to both X and Wayland. And they called this Mir. Now, with all due respect to Matt Hartley and his monkey suit, Mir never really took off with any other distributions, save Ubuntu. And this is another example. We've talked about this concept before. This is another example where we have projects that each have strong technical merits, and yet one pulls ahead. And it's not always because it's so technically superior, but sometimes it's simply marketing or perception of marketing. And I'm not trying to be the guy. I am not trying to be the guy that comes on here and says, well, Mir was a better display server than Wayland, and I'm not saying that at all. I've talked to some people who eat, live, and breathe this stuff, and they have, all of them say the same thing. There are major benefits and major detractors to both. But it is a fact, an uncontested fact, that Wayland requires something like Mutter or Kwin, whereas Mir just simply has an API for developers to target. You can take that however you want to take it. You can say that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that is the world that we live in. So imagine this. Imagine for a moment that you are the new CEO of Canonical, and you've just spent I don't know how many umpteen dollars building this display server from scratch, and you believe it's technically superior to Wayland, and you can articulate some of the problems with Wayland and why your display server doesn't have the same problems that Wayland does. Now, cue up Cut 9. Is it Cut 9? Where's my cut sheet? Yeah, Cut 9. I tell you what, if Altispeed Technologies invested that much effort and money into developing something, and we really believed in it hardcore, I'd be extremely hard-pressed to just throw it in the trash. And at the same time, the writing is on the wall, right? Because you literally have every other distribution that is, they're not sticking with X. If they're sticking with X, they're maybe on X, but if they're not sticking with X, they're moving to Wayland. So what do you do? Well, Canonical, they figured it out. Canonical found a way to take their hard work and put it into Wayland. Play Cut 9.
So we've recently announced that we're adapting Mir to implement the Wayland protocol. So it will be a Wayland display server. So it will work with existing toolkits that have Wayland adoption built in.
So using a small desktop environment like XFCE or Mate, Mutter and Kwin, they are heavy toolkits. So if you want a lighter toolkit, hey, we have this Mir thing, and it works on everything from Android to Unity. Let's take the parts of Mir that we thought were superior to Wayland, and let's implement it as a toolkit to talk to Wayland. That is a brilliant solution. The end result here, guys, is you get your cake, and you get to eat it too. You get the ease of using the APIs with Mir if you want to, but you can still target Wayland directly with Kwin or Mutter. The next big thing, whatever that is, you could use that if you wanted to. Have at it. And this is what open source is about. This is what Linux is about. Red Hat, Canonical, SUSE, all of the big names are working together in a cohesive fashion instead of working against each other. And who puts the first foot forward? Canonical. Who says the community wanted Wayland, so we're going to give it to you? Canonical. Who says we're going to take all of our hard work that we've been working on for years and we're going to make it available to anyone who wants to use it, even if that means you want to use it with Wayland? We'll make Wayland better. Canonical. This is nothing short of brilliant. Canonical is nailing Linux on the desktop in a way that no other company is lately. And if you're not seeing this in person, you probably have a hard time understanding my excitement, but it is absolutely incredible. More on this. I can't even talk straight. I'm so excited. That's what it is. I'm going to go back to the phones because I see people are piling up here. We'll get back to this in a little bit. Stan from St. Louis. Hey, Stan, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Great to hear from you. I'm glad you're presenting everything that you do. I have a tip for new people. There's a website called thefrugalcomputerguy.com, and he's got a whole bunch of videos. He's got 45 videos that moving from XP to Linux. He's got 94 videos for LibreOffice on database. I've been using LibreOffice database for about 5-7 years now, and I'm learning stuff from it. The 94 videos on the database alone, and he's got videos on LibreOffice Calc, the spreadsheet, and LibreOffice Writer, and he's currently doing videos. He's got about 9 videos on learning how to use Vim. Some of the database or some of the videos are a little bit old, but they're very good, I think, and I am involved with 3 or 4 Linux special interest groups here in St. Louis area, and I promote using these videos. I've started copying them to DVD because they're free and handing them out with ISOs, and they're really something.
Fantastic. What was the name of that site again? I missed it. I'm sorry.
They are really something for the new user. Because they are very detailed, especially on using LibreOffice and all the Office suite, the Base, Calc, Writer, and even Draw. He's got a number of videos on using LibreOffice Draw.
What was the name of the site? How do I get to it?
It's thefrugalcomputerguy.com.
Thefrugalcomputerguy.com. Well, awesome, Stan. I'll put a link to that in the show notes, and I'll have to definitely check that out. I think that the new user space is some of the most underserved space out there. So it's really great to know that there is somebody out there that is doing videos. We tried reserving part of the program, this program at the end for some of the newbies, and we didn't get any newbie questions and we didn't get any newbie callers. And I said, well, we got the phone lines are stacking up with people that have technical questions. We'll just augment. I said from day one, you guys are in the driver's seat. Jordan is calling from Ohio. Hi, Jordan. Welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hey, Noah.
Hey, how can we help?
Hey, so I had a question. I've got a webcam that I think you're pretty familiar with. Is the Logitech C920.
Love that thing.
And so I've been wanting to use it in OBS. And the question I had is that the only part I'm a little confused about is that it's supposed to be able to do 30 FPS at 1080p or 60 FPS at 720p. But the only options I see in the menu are either 5 FPS, 10 FPS, 15, or leave unchanged. And so I don't know if leave unchanged is giving me the max FPS I want or not.
I am a little skeptical. 60? I've never heard of 60 FPS on a C920. Are you sure about that? I'm trying to do some Googling here while I'm on the phone with you.
I believe that's what it said on the box, that 60 at 720 or 30 at 1080.
Yes, that's right. Yep. C920, 60. Okay, all right. I'm with you now. Okay, we're caught up. So here's how you fix that. Here's the answer to your question. The answer to your question is you need to specify the frame rate, but I'm sure you noticed the little box, and like you said, it only shows you 2 options. The reason is underneath the video format, you need to change that to emulated instead of the YUUV. Basically, there's a couple different ways OBS can take in an image. The first way is a raw video capture where literally every single pixel is hitting the software. You want to change that to emulated. If you change that to emulated, you should get your other frame rates.
Oh, okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's all I had. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. We do everything in 30 FPS just because all of our other cameras are 30 FPS, and so I learned something new today. I didn't know the 920 does 60. And here's the other thing about the 920 I'll just throw out there. A lot of hype on the 930 and the 930E or C or whatever the corporate edition one is, and then they got the new one. I don't like them. I don't like the wider lens. I think the image quality of the C920, it's still my favorite webcam out there. In fact, I just had a guy the other day that was asking me, what kind of webcam do I like? And I said, I stock 920s like no tomorrow. And the good thing is they just keep getting cheaper and cheaper. Dale is calling from Virginia. Hey, Dale, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hi. So I had a question. I wanted to know, basically, if you had advice for anyone who wanted to start going to Linux events but lives in a rural area that might not have access to some of those areas. Maybe if there's a website I could go to and say, hey, I'd like to set up some kind of Linux event here, or how are Linux events scheduled and coordinated? Like, where can I go to find where other events are? Anything like that?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll tell you is that in general, more and more of Linux communities are moving online. There is definitely an advantage to meeting up with people in person and being able to, do show and tell on different hardware and stuff like that. But more and more places I see are moving their lugs online. The most prolific of which is, of course, the Jupiter Broadcasting Show Linux Unplugged, which is on Tuesdays. You can join in the Mumble Room, and you can participate in a Linux user group as if you were there, except you don't have to be there. You can do it over the internet. And I'll tell you firsthand, I am part of the Mumble community, and some of those people are my closest friends. And I do all sorts of things with them. Good.
I'm sorry. So anyone can join the Unplugged program's Mumble Room? That's for everyone?
Yes, sir. Okay. Anyone that has decent audio quality. So I mean, if you open your laptop up and set it 15 feet away from you and go, "Hey guys, it's good to see you. What's going on in here today? If that happens, you're probably going to be asked to leave and just listen only. But yeah, if you have a headset, and it doesn't have to be a nice headset. If you go buy a Logitech USB headset from Best Buy for $19, that'll work. And yeah, you can contribute to the conversation, and that the nice thing is that community exists 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's almost always somebody on there, and it's a great way to build relationships. And a lot of the people that I attend conferences with are people from that Mumble group.
Wow, I just didn't know it was open to everyone. That's really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I've been listening to Unplugged for almost a year now and had no idea.
Yeah, I'd recommend you check it out. It's 4 p.m. Central. I don't know what that. It's 2 p.m. Pacific. I don't know. Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. The robots will convert it into your local time zone. But yeah, check it out. I would highly encourage anyone that wants to get more involved in the Linux community to check out that show and check that community out. Chris is calling from West Virginia. Hey, Chris, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hey, Noah, you should tell the last guy as well that the Mumble channel never closes.
That's what I said. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm there all the time.
Yeah. Well, since you're so hard to get in touch with, I thought I'd call back and ask how you're. I catch you on the phone where it's the only place I know you'll be, and ask how your duplicity test went.
I'm rather predictable that way. At 6 p.m. on a Sunday, or a Monday, there's no place else I am. Although you do have my personal cell phone, so I feel like for you, you can call me.
I would you are so busy. I would never bother with your personal cell phone unless you telegrammed me and said it was okay. But you're not answering my telegrams now because you're so busy.
Yeah, it's been a crazy week. I haven't spent a lot of time on Telegram this week. Duplicity is great. I haven't dug into it as deep as I wanted to, but I have it running on a couple of machines, and so far I've been extraordinarily impressed. By the way, for those of you who haven't caught on, Chris is, if you caught the more than passing familiarity here, Chris is a good friend of mine down from West Virginia, and him and I were simultaneously looking for a backup solution, and then Chris landed on it and sold me on it, and I just kind of took him at his word and started deploying it. So hopefully it's a good solution.
Well, I have it deployed. I have it at 2 machines at a client, and I have it on my personal machine here. And even over my slow, sketchy internet at home, I am really happy with it. It's doing pretty well. It's taken about I think they have about 8 gigs right now. and it's backing it up to my server, compressing it down to just under 6. It's actually 8.7 compressed down to 5.2 or 5.9, excuse me. Most of them are things like Word documents. They do have a few pictures in there, which of course are not going to compress. But yeah, I'm really impressed with that. It seems to be doing well. I've got it emailing me whenever it does whenever it does a backup. Again, we had talked about the web interface and how neither of us really like the web server running on.
Yeah, neither one of us are a fan of that.
You can password protect it. So far, it's doing good for me, and now I guess I'm about to start billing them for it. So
yeah, and you just got a new server that you're running it on, right?
Yes, sir. I installed Ubuntu, dropped 2 4-terabyte Western Digital Reds in there, and put ZFS on them. So
outstanding.
I'm really happy with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll continue to keep.
So I thought I would.
Good.
I'm sorry. I just thought I would call up, say hey, because I haven't talked to you in a while, and let you know how it was running for me, and find out if you'd gotten a chance to implement it yet.
Yeah, I do have it running. I just, like I said, one of these days I'm gonna like seriously dive into it like super deep, and then I'll be able to give you a much more in-depth, detailed analysis. By the way, chat room is telling me if you're looking for online communities, I should mention telegram.asknoahshow.com. That is the official hangout for this show. And I'm in there. A couple other guys are in there, and we talk about small business and Linux and software and pretty much everything. So asknoahshow.telegram.com if you have Telegram installed. So to recap, Canonical is transitioning Mir to be an intermediate for developers who want to use an API to target a display server, and Wayland, which is just a protocol. So you can use Mir to talk to Wayland, which is really cool. Now, I want to shift gears because later in the interview, I asked Jerry about Canonical's choice for Wayland to become the default desktop in 1710. So cue up cut 10 for me. And again, I want to pose a problem to you. You are now the CEO of Canonical. You're in charge of a major software company that produces an operating system, the likes of which Amazon and Google are using. And no, I'm not talking about servers. I know people that work at both Amazon and Google, and they are using Ubuntu as a desktop operating system. So you have this display server that's come out, and the entire community is telling you that it's ready for projects. It's ready to go. Production. It's good to go. In fact, they're citing other distributions that are shipping it by default, but there's just one problem. No other distribution has the millions and millions and millions of users that you have. So if you don't ship Wayland, people accuse you of stagnating. And if you do ship Wayland and it crashes Amazon's operations, then I hope you have a really good PR guy on staff. And it's pretty well known at this point that 1710 is shipping by default with Wayland. So I asked, how are they going to handle this problem? And I think you're going to be shocked at the answer. Go ahead and play cut 10.
It's a good testing ground for it. So 1710 is not an LTS. We tend to get more devoted users adopting.
Wait, stop it. He said devoted users. Did you hear that? So he said, we tend to get more devoted users on the non-LTS. So translation here, the real geeks, the people that are opening bugs, the people that are submitting feedback, not the ones that are going, I'm so done with Linux. My skinny jeans are too tight, and I'm going to Starbucks, and I'm getting a venti, double venti, French vanilla, pump split latte, and then I'm going to go get a MacBook because it has a touch bar. Screw buttons. No one likes buttons. Buttons are so 2016. Why would you want buttons? You could have a touch bar. The real devoted users on Linux, the people that are actually, moving the needle forward, those guys are not on the LTS. Those guys are on the in-between release. Go ahead and play it.
It's a good testing ground for it. So 1710 is not an LTS. We tend to get more devoted users adopting the non-LTS revisions because they want to get the newer stuff and they want to test it and see what it's like. So if we release it and then we get some negative feedback, then we may reconsider the decision to use Wayland for default for the LTS in 6 months after.
Okay. So 1710 is the testing ground. So they roll out Wayland as the community expects them to, and maybe a few things go wrong. But the devoted users, the people that are in the know and have the community connections and stuff like that, they work through their problems or they fall back to the LTS. So far, so good. But what happens when users at large have problems? What do we do? Because you can't ship the LTS with Wayland if it's not working properly. Cut 14, play 14.
We may have to revert back to X for the LTS. LTS, the main priority for us is that it's stable and solid, and then people can use it every day without having to worry about stability or functionality issues. So maybe we'll have to wait until after the LTS to revisit the full Wayland-based desktop again.
Okay, so translation. We're going to ship the non-LTS with Wayland like the community wants us to, and then when it doesn't work, we'll fall back to X for the LTS. So nobody will be able to say that Canonical isn't pushing... Just think about this for a minute. This is so brilliant. No one can say that Canonical isn't pushing the envelope forward, but nobody on the other side can say that the LTS has lost any stability because they're using 1710 as a testing ground. And in the miracle event that millions upon millions upon millions of users that have never really experienced Wayland before shipping by default, if all of a sudden that just happens to work out with no serious problems, or maybe it does have serious problems, but they can be fixed easily enough by Canonical, then we have a stable desktop that ships with Wayland out of the box with a Mir toolkit that has an API that developers can target, and so you have solved all of the shortcomings of Wayland as Canonical sees them. You have not sacrificed any of the, well, at least the majority of the work that you've done on Mir because it's still relevant, and you have made, by incorporating Mir, you've made Wayland a better experience, and you have seriously moved the Linux desktop forward. You guys nailed it. Nailed it. We got a couple of minutes left. If you guys have any other questions, open phones this hour, 855-450-NOAH. That's 1-855-450-6624, or live at AskNoahShow.com. Headline, Puri.sm, Librem 5, a security and privacy-focused phone. The Librem 5, the phone that focuses on security by design and privacy protection by default, running the free Libre open source software and GNU plus Linux operating system designed to create an open development utopia. A fully standards-based, freedom-oriented system based on Debian with many other upstream projects has never been done before, but we're the first to seriously attempt it. The Librem 5 phone will be the first ever IP-native mobile handset, using end-to-end encryption and decentralized communication. This was a crowdfunding project that launched, and it has met its funding goal. So a funding goal of $1,500,000 was asked, and they are up to as of the time of this podcast, $1,515,824 with 14 days left to go. I think some of you guys know my history with, JB's history rather, with Librem. We were a little underwhelmed at first, but the longer these guys keep banging away at this stuff, the more I respect them. I legitimately thought the first time that I saw a Librem laptop in person that it was a very good concept, it was a very good design, and the idea of taking super high quality products and putting Linux on them, I think is an underserved market. So in that respect, I think this is really cool. And I was watching the video here, and it looks like they actually show a couple different screenshots in like 26 seconds in the video, and we'll have a link to the show notes, but 26 seconds in, it looks like it's GNOME actually running on this device. And I'll be the first person to throw my money down if I could get a device that ran Linux natively and cared about my privacy, because the reality is I use Android because I find it slightly less offensive than iOS, but the reality is I don't trust either platform. I don't like mobile platforms at all. I don't think they're efficient to get work done. I don't think you can trust Apple, nor do I think you can trust Google. I don't store anything important on it, and if you think that iOS is more secure than Google, it's not, and there are there's plenty of celebrities that would be happy to tell you on how you can get into an iCloud account, and not that isn't largely due to bad security practices, but the reality is if you put something on your phone that's connected, if you put something on a device that is connected to the internet, the possibility exists that it's going to wind up in hands that you didn't want it to. And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're fooling yourself. So I'm really excited to see where this goes. I didn't personally back the crowdfunding. I don't do crowdfunds anymore for technical products because I just don't think it's just not something I do. But hey guys, you should follow us on Twitter if you're not, at Ask Noah Show, Facebook.com/Ask Noah Show. The Ask Noah Show continues next week, Monday at 6 p.m. Central. Make sure to check us out online, AskNoahShow.com. Simon Quigley filling in for Sarah's call screener today. A huge thanks to Ben, our producer, Rakai, our video editor. Crosspoints coming up next for you on Locust Radio, KEQQ 88.3 LPFM, Grand Forks.